Hello everyone, welcome back. So let's continue with our AI training, and what we're trying to build are simple assistant bots. And we want to be specific about how we apply them into our real world situations or our work. And let's keep our focus more towards quality engineering and test automation, and how we can adopt such simple bots, simple coded algorithms that could assist us in some of our activities. Now, there were a few basics, fundamentals to you that you would definitely want to watch before you get into further on this training. Though we will go at a very gradual pace when it comes to coding or reintroducing web and API automation, it would still be good for you to do a round of coverage from our existing tutorials or both of these. Part of what we want to build as the first bot, and there are a lot of things that came up in mind. I'm just going to list down a few, and we're going to start with one of them. Things will get very interesting when we go towards foxes, but that will be a little down the line. Till we get there, I want us to build at gradual increments. So what you will see we will do in the first two sections out here would take us in a gradual way, recovering all our fundamentals, learning some new concepts, and then we will be going into some more advanced concepts. So I do not want to go deeper into that, but as of now, what are the ones that I believe we can get started in building? So the bot that we're building, team, is a headline catcher. What does it do? What is the intent? How do we build it? How do we apply it? Let's talk a little bit. Very simple, team. Always remember this, and I kept emphasizing on the facts of how AI systems, components, bots are built primarily to assist human or assist other bots. So this assistance becomes very important. To assist humans, you first need to know what are the manual tasks performed. Then we can look at how to automate. And then we can look at how to get some interesting analytics. So whenever we want to build or automate anything, there are three main components that go into any of it. Let's call them as, let us say, X and Y and Z. Let's talk about X as a tool or a programming coding language or an engine, something that has capabilities. It will do what we request it to do. So how can we automate? We would answer in the X component. So what are we trying to write? Three building components, building blocks for any automation. Yeah. And that is what we are trying to present here as three building components. Y is basically what is it that we want to do? What is our task list? What is it that we want to do as steps to achieve each of those actions that has to be performed? So somewhere we have to write these as scripts or instructions that have to be. So what is the difference between X and Y? X is your engine. Y becomes your map. Y becomes your fuel that is driving it. So in our case, when we are planning to build something here, I'm going to use Python as my core X engine. And that is where I would do the execution. What would Y be in this case? I would use, let's say, an IDE called PyCharm at the moment and write all that I want in .py format. .py would be my file extension for any Python. So what is Z? I have X. it gives me the capabilities which tells me what I can do. What is the exact things that I need to perform is there in while. What is my Z? Z is the results. That is primarily your consumable report or summary dashboard. It can be very, very detailed. It can be high level. Or it could be something that is giving you just simple prompts or alerts. We do not know how you want to consume it. But anytime you build something, these reports will come, let us say, in the form of CSV or HTML, or you could send it as emails or text them as what is happening and so on. So while we're building any of these components, keep this in mind, X, Y, Z, that is what we'll try and build. Now, what we're trying to build is a headline catcher. Let's talk about what we want to do. So the Y component of it is something we will try and develop. Then once we get a little bit of Y, little bit of Z built, it'll be easy for us to start writing. Remember this, team. At any time, if you go back and look at how we have done our trainings and tutorials, we emphasize a lot on doing everything using a pen and a paper or on a notepad first before you start actually writing the code. Your logic, your flow, even debugging, you should try and do it away from the IDE and code. Then that is the reason we spend a little time getting prepared, organizing everything, and then getting into IT for finishing our program. Okay, so we're trying to get to that. What is a headline catcher? Headline catcher, yeah, we can name it anything, but primarily let us say at a personal level, you have social media, but you get too much push content. What do I mean by push content? Content that is relevant, content that is forced upon you, and so on. And you want to make it more finite. You still visit a few key websites and get information. Okay, maybe these are the headlines. This could be anything, let us say, on sports, maybe on news. That is where I need to clearly define where I want to be. Now, remember, there are two ways of doing this thing. Web as a human does. And for that, let us say I go to news, right? Let's go to CNN.com. All right. So when we look at an application, the purpose becomes very, very critical for us. In this case, on a Chrome incognito mode, I've opened up a CNN.com latest, and we see a lot of content being displayed. But standard, what is the pattern? You see text and you see images, maybe pop over videos or images that become reels. Every website have their own style, pattern that is different. And they have their own cascade style sheets that they have incorporated into the standard. If you go to, let's say, a website like for cricket, so we're looking at a news website, and I'm looking at, let us say, cricket website. Here again, what we see is a lot of text, a lot of links. We also see statistics and number, like scorecards on what is happening. And these are all views that we are seeing at home level. And then open APIs. I might always go to, let us say, a weather.com and start looking at how humanly I go typically, look at my zip code, and primarily try and see how much weather is out here, right? All the steps that we're performing are something we would like to do automated probably. A bot that does a few of these things, and how do I want to consume? Remember we spoke about a Z. In this case, let's get a simple text report or log or text. Later, we will do conversions. You have capabilities of X, where it will just read and display headlines. We would be a version 1. Your version 5, 6 could have enhanced capabilities where your instructions are given as speech and you get everything as a neat HTML newsletter. So what finally will happen is you may take content from various sources and combine them into one format. So these things would come for you in advanced versions as we continue to think. Let's build the basic components and structures. It's a couple of months, 3 to 4 months journey on how we develop our overall AI skill. So till then, you should get comfortable. So what I'm saying, web as human does, this is all our automation, web automation that we could easily achieve through web drivers like Selenium. And how we interact and get information. And please remember, Tim, we are not doing test automation out here. We'll come to test automation later. All we're focusing is in the automation AI side of things. Okay. Now, the same information currently in today's world, you don't see much, but you will start seeing a lot of consumable APIs that we can use for our any use team. And this will be something that are paper use over a period of time. But primarily, you're going to be paying pennies for each request response, depending on who the provider is and how it goes. But we have these two options. Option 1, web. Option 2, through API. If you have not been exposed to how APIs work and how we do automation of APIs, this will be a very, very easy and good introduction. And we'll basically use inbuilt capabilities and packages of Python. We'll do some pip installs and start working. The only thing I just want to mention out here before we get into talking about what the code will do, what the flow will be, once we get the options, is what is it that we're trying to look at when we go to a website. Humanly, we're looking at each element or each visual entity that becomes navigating is the DOM level, or it is actually going through the DOM level document. It is how it is organized for this application to show on the browser. Every browser in an HTML at the end of it. So for every site, there's primarily HTML that is rendering that UI to our front end. And the HTML, every or the end of standardize, customize, do everything around how their content, their brand, our able to go through and see what I want from here will become. So when it comes to, let's say, web automation, I have to go through elements and find out what information to capture and get it into a user. If I have to do it via API, get it able to search it. This National Weather Service. I think I tried this, but I don't know if this sending examples. Let's see specifications. This is a nice collection of APIs. I think you should be able to use this. If you are, like I mentioned to you, if you have not been exposed to API or test automation or web automation earlier, you will be as a lot. Same with Python, and that's why this is a level 2 where we'll go a little faster, assuming that we have covered this. Look at all of these things too. There are different requests of GET that we can send, and each has its own endpoint to which you can send. And once we start sending this information, you will know what there's good amount of documentation, what we are sending in as a payload. I do not believe we may require any authentication. It could be an open API. And how my responses will come. So each API is well explained. So watching for where my 200 responses, 200 kept coming in, and in what format. So we have, these are the two approaches team, and sometimes I need a hybrid. What does it mean? I have, so I need few through web and few through API. Maybe there's something on my Windows machine also that I may need info. I don't know. But at the moment, I just want to build something which does not have to be only for web or only for API. As long as my need is to get certain information, Z reports, then I'm all set. This, what you will notice is what is our logic of program going to be? We know how we would like our reports coming in to begin with a simple log, but as we get, once we will do more custom HTML dashboards. Yeah. Let's talk about the code itself. Any code team, primarily, there are certain actions, outputs. This becomes the building block. When we say inputs, this is your data. Data could be, in my case, I want what websites do I want to collect information from. So URLs could be my data. I could have a zip code. Oops, sorry. Or let's say favorite team or player. These are all my input data that I will provide. So what does it mean? Depending on my information that I'm giving it in, my actions will basically perform on the inputs or using inputs. Outputs would be so any generic code we're saying, and we're trying to get more towards RL and capture performance using the inputs and varied results by input. So the same code with user A, code 1 plus user A result, let us say A1. Same code 1 plus E2, because the user is doing different inputs, we're getting a different result. And is how we try and read and to large extent components. So I have 3 sections of code to write: inputs, actions, and outputs. And that is how I'll start putting it within my code. Let's go into Python IDE for a bit. Before I get into that, quick question: anyone in terms of audio okay, visual okay? And let me open my PyCharm. And we should be, yeah. So one of the important reference points, we'll have a lot of reference system to be self-sufficient when you're on your own. You may not remember all the intricacies of details that I may teach. Yes, you will be able to capture it as you repeat it. But I want you to be self-reliant. So you have a way to get around, not having to go to a long video to watch again, just because you need one concept. How do we manage it? Anytime you have a question, you look at going back to fundamental, like Python gives WG schools to Python. You have the other tutorials also. It gives you a basic idea of the syntax of how the code looks. Very importantly, for us slowly would be the variables. Uh, what has happened is, in the whole intent of making programming languages easier and data structures within them, the whole concept of arrays has been single dimension, 2-dimension, 3-dimension. And when we come to NumPy and a few other things, we will see how we explore a lot of that. We will talk about data sets, JSONs, and how the storage is at large extent. But we start very simple. We have simple variables, how we present them, and how we go about writing them. We will definitely be going through our conditional statements, our loops, a few functions. So 2-3 days we should be able to get a decent output on it. Yeah, I think that should be pretty much what we could do there. So there's something that I was talking about, team that I'm building called the Foxes. As we will play around with this when we get there. But for now, I don't think. What I'll do is, within my PyCharm IDE, one of the free integrated development environments, it should be absolutely simple for you to do one Google search for Python download and install, and another one for PyCharm. And then going forward, if there are pip installs that require us for packages, I can easily guide you to what to do. Get your installations ready before the next session. If anyone is stuck with technical aspects, we can take about 10-15 minutes after any class to look at your screen and be able to be. What I'm going to do is open up a new project. That way I can keep my files separated and organized. Folder, so I'm just using one project. Let's take a new window. I just want to keep this in case this difference. Disable power save. So remember, team, anything that you're running on your system uses your computer resources, especially programming. And you're writing code, maybe not so much, but when you start executing, having servers all the time available, there will be some. what I'm trying to do. So I was speaking about W3 schools being a good reference point while we're going on. For my code, I did a very basic level of what I'll need. So we have some URLs, we have a few zip codes enough, and then we'll see how it goes from there. It's still loading up new. So what it primarily is doing is it is setting up a total runtime environment for me on this folder. So if you go to this specific folder in your Internet Windows Explorer, you'll notice that though we did not put anything in it so far, there is already a virtual environment that got created, and you are able to use this folder for its own independent execution. So whatever we need from Python as a programming language is all in. So now that we are here, I can create a subfolder, try and keep things organized. The intent is to get to a code. Let's create a Python file itself. Um, code file. Okay. The reason I'm saying file is because this will have my what I want to do, the data, the inputs, and so on, all of them in one name. So anything that I'm planning to do, let me first get that as text and put it. Remember, team, your intent is not to write 2 lines of code, run, find errors, and fix it. Your intent is to write a beautiful, well-drafted code, do internal mind review, debug it within your mind, try and see where it could go wrong, and then is when um, running it and debugging. Your intent is when you run the code, you should not get too many errors. So how you anticipate, how you mentally debug, that becomes important. Anything that I'm writing within my Python program is primarily within the lines of code. Everything is tab indented, so it becomes important. I keep a line number as a reference. Your IDE typically will help you, team. If you write it, you'll see something show line numbers. This should get you going with those line numbers. Anything that is not a code level for me is primarily a comment, individual line comment for now, which is basically telling me that, or telling Python that ignore this. This is only for the human, not for the Python system processor that will understand code. Let's talk about the data here. Looks like first things I need to put are few URLs. Yes, there are web and there are API. No problem. For now, though my data may not be very well organized, let me put it in some format so I can capture it. So web, what I'll say is, let me abbreviate it as web. We have HTTP. Keyword, what HTTP colon data. Let's just see in that's one. And let's I also want to put a sport and so this is click. This is application. What I want within the application, I don't know yet, but we come. The same name variables. So what at the end of it, what will happen is it is going to create memory space, and it is called it WU1. And first it has put CNN in it. Where on line 6. As soon as it comes to line 7, everything remains the same. The name is same. The is over. So it is replacing the value. Only one variable is there has been created. So what we're going to do is, I want an individual named one. So this is my second view. Here it's an API, and I'll say I have one. Where do we get this from? The list of API schemas that we saw here. Team, if any time during your learning experience you feel, oh, you know what, this is getting a little heavy, or I'm unable to, let's say, grasp, if you just keep listening in, you'll start seeing the results coming slowly. For 200, I'm just seeing it, we'll change it at the later point. I still do not know exactly what each of these endpoints do. So I'm trying to look at the schema, the specifications, and the documentation behind it. It's active alerts for a given area. So if I give a state or marine area, it'll tell if there's a flood alert, fire alert, any weather alert out there. Let's see if there's anything specifically for weather or temperature. Radiation reports. There's a lot of as of now, I'm just going to take, let's say, one of these two. That's my endpoint. Total URI is something. So that's okay. So this is the ending part of your universe. Unified resource indicator. All right. This API one. In this case, there are two components to the to what we're giving to. It's almost like giving a main domain and a sub page or navigate to another page. Out here, I have a main domain that is serving or providing the API, and then the actual endpoint, depending on what API we're calling, is out like that. So my actions to do something where I say get CNS, and this needs to give me some value, and I don't know what. So this is what will go as standard input. My output has to come into some format, right? And before I cannot define an output here. Let's say I define an output here. It's Z news equals whatever I get from WU1 plus let's say headline 1. At the moment, this has to change at the end of it. It's what the actual information that we will see on the application. Let's say in here. So remember, we were speaking about how we write and open up the HTML that is giving us this user experience as a front end. And you'll notice that each of the big highlighted news, let's say we go here, transformer violence. I don't want to navigate. Only want to. Browser is actually unresponsive. This is a design mode. This is where I can change my dimension. I can change layout settings, landscape, portrait. So you have the ability to see how users may see, especially when they're doing it from a smartphone, tablet, or an iPad. Most important thing for me is recognizing patterns. If you look at my patterns are there ways. There's one in a bigger font, like here. Let's see what happens. When I go specifically out here, it's coming under and expand this portion of it. This is the content I want. I'll have my date from when I run the program. So today's date, today's time will give it, but the content I wanted. I know it will change maybe every few minutes on the website itself. So how do I identify such a content? That is very web automation. Now to be able to identify, let me see where it is categorized. So I'm trying to see, look at and observe its parent and a lot of these things are there under a few container boxes to make it look in a specific way. However, if I'm going a little up, distance, it's got an anchor tag, which primarily is click here thing above the text only. Why the anchor tag will then end, see out here. So what does that mean? My click when I do it is not just on the text, but all the way till this gap here, what it was highlighting. Okay. If I just highlight on this section, you'll see the blue highlight above live updates still speeches. But if I go down a little, you'll see that the anchor tag for the link is all the way from left to the right with the extra space on the right side. That is giving us more than what we need. So container headline text, this seems to be something unique. What I would do for now is just take this unique information. Classes container headline text. These are all input stream. So now you'll see there's set of data, set in the sense for CNN, there is, how do I see, was span, right? Span class. This is span class equals this. Now, within this entire page, there may be more with the same. Let's see. There are 151 such. Let's see the next one. You saw the first one. Now I'm seeing the next one. Is this relevant for me? Yes. Looks like I would like this. How about the next one? There we go. GOP. What did I do? I took span class container, whatever is that information within the tag, and I'm searching on that. And I seem to be getting the correct details of the information that I'm seeking. I only want to get for the top. So here is how it will happen. One, go to cnn.com to find top 11 elements with span class. Get text from E repo. You got the whole idea, team? So tomorrow, that is going to be our approach of how we will have our program open up the website, navigate to the page, or it will already be on the given page, and try and get the top container headline text. And once we get it, it may not be absolutely pretty, or we may still have issues and a few things to fine tune, tweak here and there. And those will be the focus things. So I believe we should be able to complete all of this within one session tomorrow. And that will be a good introduction to web automation, WebDriver, and a little bit on Selenium, a little bit of programming. Maybe 2 sessions we should be able to complete this. Let's finish it with one website. Then we will easily be able to quickly do for other websites. The challenge that we're facing right now is how my data is stored. At the moment, I say for the website I have, there is some pattern in which the data is getting stored. We will fix that tomorrow. So what is the data pattern that I'm trying to do? There is an element, class or ID, something that will recognize it. Then do I need 10 or 11 as a count of headlines? Because some applications may just have 3. Some you may want 20, 25. And or anything else. The reason I'm saying is at the moment, I'm only trying to do it for CNN, but the steps that I'm doing should be common for any other website. I do not want to write separate for top 10 of my websites. So, okay, do it in the same. Let's do the small team. I believe this should be a good pause and stop. I'll stop the recording also. If there are questions, technical issues, I can start. Hope the audio was okay. I'll relook at it in the video when I replay it after it's converted. Thank you so much. See you back tomorrow. Stopping the recording. Questions.